Okay, these were the notes we were taking in class on the last 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. We're working on completing the square. It's a method that's best used for options when you have fractions, radicals, or imaginary numbers. But in Algebra 1, you aren't going to be working with imaginary numbers or radicals, but you will be working with fractions. So let's go ahead and start off with the process for this, and it's in 4 steps. The first step has you, and it's all laid out here at the top in each section, the first step has you separate the variables, the x squared and the constant, by getting the constant to one side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 45 from both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to be left with x squared minus 14x on the left and negative 45 on the right. And it wants me to leave a blank on each side of the equation for values that you're going to add in step 2. So we're going to simply add these 2 blank spaces, because I'm going to put numbers there, and that number is going to be figured out here in step 2. The number I'm going to use to put in those blank spaces is simply from taking the half the variable of the coefficient x. That's this right here. That's the b value. If you're talking about in standard form, that's ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This is the b value. So you're going to take half of that value, which would be half of negative 14. And that's going to be 7, negative 7. And you're going to square negative 7. And that's going to give me 49. I'm going to add 49 to both sides. And here you go. X squared minus that 14x plus 49 on the left and 49 on the right. That's step 2. I added 49 on both sides. Step 3 has me factor the left-hand side and simplify the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and simplify the right-hand side. Negative 45 plus 49, that's going to give me a total of positive 4. Now on the left, I have created, by doing this system right here, I have created something called a perfect square trinomial. In other videos, it'll explain what perfect square trinomials are, but a perfect square trinomial factors very simply. It would be 2 binomials of the same type in parentheses, so they always factor out in the same way. The letter that you're using, the first operation, and half that number, half the b number, twice, so we're going to say squared. And that would be happening from factoring on the left and simplifying on the right. I get this equation, a perfect square equation, a perfect square on the left and a perfect square on the right. To solve this in step 4, to find out what values of x I can use, I'm going to take the square root of each side of the equation. So let's go ahead and do that. X minus 7 squared is equal to 4. If I take the square root of the left and the square root of the right, it's going to happen like this. The square root of a square, well, those cancel, and I get x minus 7 on the left. But the square root of a constant is simply the plus or minus of that constant, square root of 4, which is 2. So that gives me x minus 7 equals positive 2, or x minus 7 equals negative 2. X minus 7 equals positive 2 can be solved, and x minus 7 equals negative 2 can be solved. And when I solve these 2 equations by adding 7 to both sides, I get x is equal to 9, and add 7 to both sides here, I get x is equal to 5. These are the 2 answers that solve these 2 equations, but together in set form, x equals the set of 9 comma 5, I have given you the answers that will solve this quadratic equation. If I plugged in 5 and 9, I'm going to see that both sides of my equation are equal to 0. Go ahead and stop the video, follow what we've done here on the left, and see if you can do what's here on the right. And we'll check back in 1 second. Go ahead and stop the video. Okay, you've finished up. Let's see what we got. We are going to separate the constant. I get x squared plus 8x. Remember, I'm going to wind up adding something on the left, is equal to negative 15 plus something on the right. That thing on the right is going to be half that number. and that answer squared. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. I get x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equal to negative 15 plus 16. That's me adding and creating a perfect square trinomial. Step 3 has me factor and simplify. Factoring this is x plus 4 in parentheses squared, and that is 1. I've created a perfect square trinomial equation. Solving that equation, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, the square root of 1 and the square root of that. Those are going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1, plus or minus square root of 1, which is 1. Split those two equations. X plus 4 is equal to positive 1. X plus 4 is equal to negative 1. When I subtract 4 from both sides, I'm going to get x is equal to negative 3. And subtract 4 from both sides, I'm going to get x is equal to negative 5. My final answer is the set of numbers negative 3 and negative 5. There you go. Hope you got that answer. Please check with the teacher if you didn't, see where you went wrong. Go back over your work, and good luck.